G'day guys, how are you going? Today we are having a look at the FV4005 Stage II, probably my favorite tank at tier 10, even before it was buffed to god tier status. This thing is awesome in my opinion. In general, it's pretty damn bad, but god damn, that 183mm gun is to die for, and I'm going to tell you exactly why in this review today, guys. So for those of you that are new, what we always do here is we go through the history of the tank, then we have a look at the top 3 and the bottom 3 quirks of this tank, moving over into a brand score, going through all of its stats, all of its cool quirks and cool features as well. And then we're going to look at some live replay in this video today because it's hard for me to get an actual replay on the test server, and then I'm going to give you my final thoughts on this tank and whether or not you guys should go ahead and pick it up. So today guys, we are going to be having a look at my old account. I have done a reroll. It was a while ago, so don't blame me. Certainly well before YouTube, a few years ago. I can't actually get onto my standard account because I once clicked on the nameless. I think it was last test server. I have the nameless in my garage. Of course, I'm an Asia server player, and when I pressed on it, the game crashed and has never allowed me to open it up on my other account. So I'm having to play on my old account. Now, as always, guys, let's start off with the history of this tank. Now, the story of Britain's most powerful tank destroyer began in late January of 1951 when it was decided to build a tank destroyer even more powerful than the existing FV4004 Conway. We know that at tier 9 in World of Tanks, and that was armed with the 120mm L1A1 gun. It was destined to become the most powerful tank destroyer ever built. According to the requirements, it had to confidently penetrate targets with up to 150mm of armor at 60 degrees sloping from almost 2 kilometers away. Now, the target was actually based on the IS-3, and after appearing in the Victory Parade in Russia in 1945, the IS-3 was actually considered the most dangerous opponent to Western tanks for decades. Now, in 1950, working with the quick-firing L4 gun, the most powerful tank gun in the world, that work started on that gun to get it produced, and the gun weighed a little under 4 tons and had nearly 87 tons of recoil force, which is just astronomical. Now, in order to clear the fighting compartment of propellant fumes, the gun had to be fume extractor fitted, and only one type of shell was actually ever planned for this gun, and that was the high explosive squash head rounds, which were the rounds that were very, very explosive, of course, but they were able to penetrate through targets and then explode, whereas existing high explosive rounds would usually just hit the target and explode, if my knowledge is completely correct. Now, not only was the caliber of the L4 gun completely stunning, but also was the weight of the rounds. The propellant was actually separate from the shell, but this didn't make the loader's job any easier really, because the mass of the shell was 72 kilograms and the mass of the propellant was 32.8 kilograms, so it was over 100 kilograms to fire a round, which is just absolutely insane. And that is why this tank has 2 loaders, because guys, it really needs it, if not even more, to be honest. And in August of 1957, the FV4005 program was closed as the British Army received the Malkara anti-tank guided missiles on light Humber Hornet cars. So these were light mobile cars which weren't well armored, but neither was the FV4005. It actually had 14mm of turret armor when it was produced, so the system was much more compact and mobile, and it really rendered the huge and the heavy FV4005 project completely obsolete. And as a fun little side note as well, guys, the FV4005 Stage II's turret could actually rotate 360 degrees and not just 180 degrees as it has now been buffed to in this patch. Now onto the top 3 and the bottom 3 quirks of this tank. It actually has 10 degrees of gun depression, meaning it is very versatile at being able to peekaboo, especially over ridge lines, guys. Also, it has more than adequate mobility considering its huge gun size, and as you guys know, the gun itself weighed 4 tons, which is very heavy indeed. And also, guys, its Hesh premium rounds shells, they deal an insane amount of damage. 1750 average damage per hit. You can one-shot, I think, pretty much all tier 10 medium tanks, and if you have a high damage roll, to be fair, and also anything tier 9 below you can one-shot. This thing is beautiful when it's able to one-shot, and hopefully in the live replay I can show you just how good of a feeling it is to ruin your enemy's day. But the bottom 3 quirks of this tank is that if you are not firing premium shells, then this tank becomes a lot less enjoyable. Think about driving a KV2. You don't use the 122mm gun, you use the 155mm gun, and that's kind of what it feels like, because yeah, okay, you can have more chance of penetrating and doing, you know, full damage with the standard rounds, like 310mm penetration or so, but with the Hesh rounds, when you penetrate those shells, it is the greatest feeling, being able to deal damage, and also even if you don't penetrate, it still explodes and you still do 600-700 damage. So honestly guys, if you're not firing Hesh rounds in this tank, then unfortunately you're doing it wrong, because that's what this tank really thrives upon. Now also, it has only 14mm of turret armor, leaving this thing practically defenseless, and it can be overmatched by absolutely anything it meets. Tier 1 tanks would have no issue being able to penetrate the turret on this thing. It is quite absurdly bad, and of course you can't go turret down in this tank. You need to expose your turret to be able to get those shots off. You can't sit back either, because you're not going to get any shots. It's just a very inaccurate gun, so you're going to have to get up and close and personal with other tanks, and that will mean that this tank is not something that you really do want to go tanking with. It's something that you want to really just be the immediate second line of defense, right behind the heavy tanks and the super heavy tanks. But anyway, it also has very poor gun handling, and you know, it's a 183mm cannon, so that's not something that you really shouldn't expect anyway. So guys, now let's get on to the brand score of this tank. So the DPM, or the damage per minute of this tank, is 2,300, giving it a 6 out of 10. But remember guys, that is with standard rounds. This is all with base standard values. If we're going to use premium rounds on this tank, that will jump up significantly, so do keep that in mind. In fact, it would go to something like almost 4,000 because of that extra 750 damage, or no, it'd be less, 515 damage. But anyway guys, it would still be astronomical, so do keep that in mind. Penetration of this tank is 310mm, giving it an 8 out of 10. That is the highest, I believe, on any tank in World of Tanks, so that's pretty absurd. Gun handling wise, the shown dispersion value of this tank is 0.38, giving it a 2 out of 5, while the hidden dispersion value of this tank is 0.314, giving it another 2 out of 5. Now, aiming time wise, the aiming time of this tank is 3 seconds flat, giving it a 6 out of 10. Gun vertical movement wise, this tank has 10 degrees of gun depression, so bam bam, thank you ma'am, that is absolutely fantastic, and that gives it a 3 out of 5, while the gun elevation of this tank is really bad at 8 degrees, giving it a 1 out of 5, and I'll show you that in game guys. It is just horrific. It doesn't even look like the gun is moving in the slightest. But anyway, survivability wise, now let's go have a look in an armor schematic viewer so I can show you just how bad the armor on this tank is. So guys, have you ever seen a more colorful tank? I mean, maybe going back to the old Wolfentrager E100, but this thing is just so poorly armored. Even this red zone is not great. So if we have a look at the hull armor, it's 76mm, sloped back at what, 50 degrees or so, I'm not even sure, but you're not going to get many bounces of that unless something hits on this kind of angle, yeah sure, but otherwise don't ever expect to bounce off this tank guys, because then we have a look at the turret and oh my lord, it's 14mm all round. You can overmatch it from any angle. Surprisingly though, a lot of shells do hit this do hit the gun before they even hit the turret, because the gun is just so massive. But look how massive the turret is guys. It is just so unforgiving. It is quite horrifically bad. Don't ever expect to bounce. You're not going to, you're just not, unless you're in a training room with something with a gun that is less than, you know, 42 calibers or whatever. You're not going to bounce with this tank. Don't expect to. All high explosive will go through the turret. Artillery will absolutely poop on you. They're going to rain fire on you, and they're going to go straight through your turret because it's just such a massive target. But then again guys, you do get this awesome gun, so you know, it's up to you what you like. But for all these reasons guys, this tank actually gets a really poor 2 out of 10 for survivability. It's just not, it can't survive. Don't ever expect to bounce anything on this hull armor. You're just not going to. Yeah, sure, you might get tracked or whatever, but the turret armor especially just, it's that bad. Enough complaining though, right? Let's get back to the brand score. Now, the power to weight ratio of this tank is 18.62, giving it a 3 out of 5, while the average traverse speed of this tank is 23, giving it a 2 out of 5. View range wise, the view range of this tank is 390 meters, giving it an 8 out of 10. And the concealment while stationary value or camouflage value is just so horrific, guys. The camouflage value of this tank whilst not moving and not firing the gun is 1.37%, giving it a 1 out of 10, guys. 1.37% is like the lowest value you can get in game, and this is a tank destroyer. You will be spotted from the other side of the map because it's just that bad, guys. It's just so bad. It's 1.37%. I just can't even stress how bad that is. There's no point putting it camouflage, crew. If you're going up the ranks in your crews and in your tanks, you're grinding up the FV4005 Stage II line. Don't even bother putting camouflage on your crew, because when you get to the FV4005, you're not even going to be able to use them. You'll get like 4% of a crew of camouflage. It'll just be a waste. You might as well get other skills, guys. It's just that bad. Don't put camouflage on it unless you want a prettier looking tank. Definitely don't put a camouflage net on it, because you get 50% more, which is what, 2% or something. So don't just, yeah. Anything camouflage, don't even worry about it on this tank. It's just that bad. There's no point in having it. That was a rant and a half, so let's get on to the value of this tank. Now, this tank is a very niche tank. To play it to its full potential, you have to fire premium rounds to get the HESH damage, and this is expensive to play. Further, it has effectively no armor, and that makes it even harder to play. Yet there is a real niche about this tank having the biggest gun fitted to any tank in game. Of course, the FV215B 183 also has that, but that is being replaced in a few patches, if not next patch. Not this patch, but the patch afterwards. So that's something to consider as well. It will be the only tank in game with such a massive gun. I mean, this tank is like playing a KV2 on steroids, and who doesn't love the KV2, right? I mean, when you penetrate and you do damage, the full damage, you're just like, oh yeah, that was me. So you're not playing this tank for the tank itself, it's for that monstrous gun that can do over 2,000 damage if it penetrates with its HESH shells and has a good damage roll. And that just makes you laugh and giggle and have a great time at the expense of your enemy's mental health, to be fair. But for this reason, I'm giving this tank a 10 out of 10 because hell yeah, guys, it's so worth it. So as such, guys, the final brand score for this tank is 54 out of 100. Yes, it's not great, but honestly, this tank is only really good because of its massive alpha damage. I mean, that's pretty much about it. But anyway, guys, let's have a look at this tank live in games. Just see if it can penetrate those HESH cells and if we can get some lovely 1750 damage plus rolls.
Nice.
So guys, here we are on Swamp. I'm going to load up the premium rounds. Don't hate me. This is just how you have to play the tank, honestly. If you're not playing it with premium rounds, then I genuinely believe you're doing it kind of wrong. Yeah, as you can see, guys, this tank is so mobile. Now have a look at the gun elevation of this tank. That's its gun fully extended upwards. That's how piss poor it is, guys. It's really bad. It's got more gun depression than gun elevation, and that's quite obscene. And very unheard of anyway. Looks like we've had one of our allies team kills, so that's really awesome. Great start to the game. People are speaking Russian. I don't quite speak Russian, so I think my teamwork skills here is going to be quite poor. I got to admit, but anyway, enough complaining. Let's go and just try and one-shot some people, because this will be fun. Remember, guys, this tank has an insane amount of damage potential. Now, I do have this tank on my standard account, not on the live server. Whoa! And yes, boy! Yes! As you can see, we've done 1,696 damage. That was just after I took a hit from my own teammate. Luckily, it went into my tracks, so RNGs has really helped me out there, but I very well could have just had 440 damage or so straight into me. So that was a bit unkind to that 1-2-1 on the enemy team, on my team, I should say, not the enemy team, my team. So yeah, cheers for that, buddy. I appreciate it. Enough rambling though. We've got 1696 damage in one shell. That's pretty much the entirety of damage, and we just did 1699 damage. Yeah, I love that. I genuinely love that. I literally just creamed myself. That's inappropriate, but that is fantastic. I love it. I love. So far we've done 3,395 damage. And guys, honestly, my reaction is not fake. This is how I react regardless. It's just so fun playing this tank and getting those damage rolls. I mean, how could it not be? It's ruining the day of someone else, making your day better. And hopefully I can show you guys as well. We don't even have to penetrate, and we're still going to do 554 damage to the front of that enemy tier 10 heavy tank, which you wouldn't be able to go through regardless, and yet we just were able to. So probably going to ruin his day, and hopefully these guys pop out a little bit more so I can get a shot off into them. And there we go, just did 880 damage. If that doesn't show just how awesome this tank is, I don't know what does. I'm almost at 5,000 damage, guys, and I've barely done anything. Do you guys see my point here? Do you guys see why this tank is so fun? You just ruin the day of everyone else, and there's nothing better than ruining someone else's day. No, don't do that. That's mean. Our team is pretty much on the offensive. We're winning. We are destroying. Hopefully I can get a shot off into this mother trucker dude. I just want him to pop out a little bit more, please. Please, fam. Now you guys might be wondering why I'm staying back. You know, if this tank is so good, why am I staying back? Why am I going forward? Well, of course, that is because it's got 14 degrees of armor. 14 millimeters, I should say, of armor. And that's not something that I can... you can't, I mean, there's no way to protect yourself with that kind of lack of armor. Whoa! Hello, fam. It's good to meet you, man. So we just took a shot into our tracks. Didn't take any damage, but of course we did damage the enemy. Who damaged me? It must have been that object. But yeah, guys, 20-second reload, but who cares? I certainly don't care. And I don't think this guy really needs to worry, to be honest. We're about to absolutely wreck. Riggedy wreck. IS-7 down. We've done 6,000 damage, friends. 6,000 damage. Wow. Wubsy. Wow. I'm enjoying myself. And guys, honestly, I never feel this way about any other tank. Maybe the KV2, but this is a KV2 at tier 10. With better mobility, and the KV2 has really poor armor anyway. I mean, yeah, you'll get some bounces here and there, but guys, if you like the KV2 and you're not playing this tank, then what are you doing with your lives? Honestly, this is where it's at. This is where it's at, fam. I don't want to hit my own teammate, but I also don't really care. And we almost destroyed my... Oh, I did destroy my... Oh. Uh-oh. Don't do that. Do not do that. Do not destroy your own team. It's bad. Bad practice. Don't do it. That was an accident, guys. It wasn't really an accident. I knew it was going to happen. But, and don't do it. Anyway, guys. I went blue? What? I went blue? Well, come on. Okay, anyway. So we were able to pick up 6,574 damage, guys. It's just absurd and insane. Of course, we did by far the most damage on our team. Didn't get the most, that guy got heaps of experience, wow. Anyway, 6,574 damage. My teammate got 4,652 damage. I mean, guys, this tank is just so fun. I don't know if there's much more I can say about it. I could show you another replay, but it's just going to be more of the same thing. It's just going to be someone drives in front of me, bam, half their hit points, if no more. Like, all their hit points are pretty much gone. They regret everything and they have a really bad day. And that's effectively the name of this tank. It's just a mobile gun. It really is just one big mobile, huge cannon. That's all I can really say. So let's have a look at the final thoughts, and I'll give you my final thoughts on this tank and whether or not you guys should go ahead and buy it. So guys, what are my final thoughts on this tank, and should you grind for it? Well, although the brand score of this tank is definitely quite average, that is because this tank really is quite average. The brand score shows that this tank, for its tier, just really isn't overpowered, and it's not. It's just got a massive gun and is pretty mobile, and that's about it. In fact, the only really great thing about this tank, as I said guys, is its gun. But oh boy, that gun. Oh boy, that gun. It really can make your day feel 100 times better, and there is nothing better than knowing if an enemy tier 10 medium tank strolls in front of your gun, you can very comfortably one-shot it back to the garage with that beautiful, sweet Hesh round. I love this tank, guys, but I know that it's not everyone's cup of tea. Regardless, guys, I'm still gonna recommend it to you guys to grind up to, especially with all the buffs now going on to the same line. Grinding up to it before was quite a challenge, with a challenger, no pun intended, and the tanks above that, but now, guys, it's just a real joy, a real lovely tank to play, in my opinion. It's just something that you can pull out in your garage and just have a lot of fun with. But anyway, guys, thank you so very much for watching. If you did like this video, please do leave it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you are new. It really makes me a lot happier when I can see that subscriber number going up, because, you know, it makes me know that you guys enjoy my content. But anyway, guys, thank you so very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.